sometimes remakes are better. But not in this case, not at all in this case. Let's review Pet Sematary. Pet Sematary stars Jason Clarke, John Lithgow, G.T. Lawrence, and is directed by Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Widmer. What's up, guys? It's time to review the Pet Sematary remake. Boy, has this movie had a lot of controversy around it over the last few months. If you remember, I believe a month or two ago, this trailer 2 came out. And I remember I immediately went on to Killer Flicks, social media, and said, hey, don't watch this trailer because it gives away a huge spoiler. But the interesting thing about this is it's a spoiler if you've seen the original. If you haven't seen the original, then it's not that much of a spoiler. So anyway, I'm going to be careful about this review, but you know what? I'm going to go into this review as if you guys saw trailer 2. Because even if you didn't see trailer 2, more than likely you were still spoiled because it was all over social media. It was tough. So I will say, for those that don't know the twist that was in trailer 2, you might want to steer clear of this review just because it's kind of important for me to talk about to get my point across, because I have a lot of thoughts on this movie. I literally just walked out of the theater like 10 minutes ago. There's a lot there, but I definitely know how I feel about this movie, and that is that it doesn't even compare to the original. And that is the sad thing, because I was really looking forward to this. Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Widmer, I'm a big fan of their work. They did Starry Eyes before. I literally went and I met Alex Esso over at Spooky Empire from Starry Eyes. I told her, I was like, that movie was so amazing, and I'm always trying to spread the word about it. So that's a big reason why I was so interested in seeing this movie, because of Starry Eyes. And I think one thing that I loved about Starry Eyes was that last act. And I thought, given the direction they went in this movie, changing the story up a little bit, that last act had a lot of potential to be pretty damn good. Pretty damn creepy, and there are some creepy moments in it, but ultimately it was unsatisfying. But we're going to get into all that because there are some pros about this movie, I will say that. But first off, do I really have to give you a plot synopsis about Pet Sematary? I mean, most of you that watch my channel are horror fans, so that means most of you have seen the original Pet Sematary. So, I mean, if I give you the quick rundown of Pet Sematary, it's basically about bringing the ones that you love back to life. You know, this old Indian burial ground. There's this mystery behind this burial ground, and it doesn't really tell you why it has the power to bring people back to life and animals back to life, but it does. And I like that in this movie they didn't really delve too deep into that either. Sometimes we don't really need to know, you know? Just we need to know that we've only been on this earth for so long, and who knows of the forces that have existed here before us and how long they've stayed with us, and we might not even realize it. But this is a spoiler-free review. I will probably do a more in-depth spoiler review. And like I said, even though I'm going to be talking about mostly what you learned from trailer 2. But I do plan on doing a more spoiler-filled review, really digging deep in it, talking about all the plot points beat by beat. But, you know, just to give you the quick rundown, let's start off with the pros in this one. I do like that the directors chose to go a different route with this one instead of recreating the original movie. I mean, there are a lot of elements of the original movie in this one, especially the first 2/3 of the movie. But the last act, because they chose to go with the loss of a different loved one, that changed the trajectory of the story. And that was what really got me interested in the story. But we will get into the cons. And I will say, the first 2/3 of this movie are my biggest problems with it, because everything about the original is better than the first 2/3 of this movie. The last act is very different from the original. They choose to go a different path with the story. The character Ellie makes some choices that you know, obviously she couldn't make in the first movie because she didn't die. You know, whereas Gage, he pretty much came in, did his thing, cut Jode's Achilles heel, and then the father had to kill him. But in this one, they chose to explore Ellie a little bit more. What would a dead person that's not necessarily a zombie, because she does talk, but she is dead. So how would she react? She knows that Lewis, played by Jason Clarke, is her father. She knows who her mother is. So there is some intelligence there. But the problem is she has really no soul. And she's, you know, I guess for lack of a better word, evil. And I'm kind of in the middle with the performance of Jeet Lawrence, the young female that was in this movie. She actually is a very talented actress. I really enjoyed her in the first two. I guess the living version of her, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed her even more than the original Ellie from the first movie. And I believe the original, they were played by twins. Once she comes back from the dead, though, then it felt a little bit too forced. You know, they were trying way too hard to make her extra creepy. You know, some of the time I really wasn't buying it. It felt very modern. You know, there is one moment where she is really, really violent. And you would think because of all the violence that's going on that it would be scary, but it was actually the opposite because it felt forced. Also, Church the Cat, I think, is a little creepier in this one. I think he was very effective. There are some nice scare moments with the cat, actually, that work, and they're not like just jump scares. There are some jump scares in this, but they do play around with different types of scares in this movie, and I think it does work sometimes. And I think, you know, you have to talk about Zelda. Zelda is pretty much an iconic character at this point in the original movie. And I think Kevin Costner and Dennis Widmer tried to be a little bit more strategic with how they handled her this time around. And I think for the most part it worked. She's not as creepy as the original Zelda, who was actually played by a man. In this one, she is played by a woman. But they're a little bit more mysterious with Zelda in this one. You know, and they do delve a little deeper into that backstory, that subplot, I guess, with the wife and her sister Zelda. Now, let's get into the problems that I find with this movie, and I'll go ahead and give you the biggest one. The first movie had so much emotion in it. It is one of the most emotional horror films I've ever seen, and it worked so well. And I think it's a big reason why the first one is bone-chilling, because the performance by Dale Midkiff, and really the mother too, was very powerful. In this one, pretty much all the actors were kind of one note. Even, you know, in the death scenes. Yes, I mean, they handled their parts okay. They definitely got some tears out and all that. But I wanted a little bit more in the emotion department. If you remember back at the first movie, when Gage is hit by that truck, the performance by Dale Midkiff is just jaw-droppingly phenomenal. It's one of my favorite horror performances ever, at least that particular scene. You know, and I just felt that the family was much more believable in the original. They felt like a unit. They were together a lot more in the original than they are in this one. This one, it felt, I hate to use this word again, but it all felt kind of forced, kind of, you know, put together. I didn't buy the chemistry as much. The next part, I guess, is what I'd call like building the myth. You know, this is a graveyard that you are going to bury your loved one in, but you got to get me there. You got to find a way to convince me that this person would go as far as burying their dead relative in a graveyard. And I don't think it was handled as well in this one. It was kind of too quick. In the original, there was so much heartbreak and love for Gage that immediately I bought that Lewis would bury Gage. It wasn't even a question because of how much he loved him. When he picked him up out of his casket, you know, and he's holding him in his arms, you felt that. In this one, not nearly as much. And with what happened with Church right before, you would think that there's no way this person would do this. It was much more organic in the original version. The story was told so much better in the original version that you believed it. You believed every action that these characters took. And I think it was important for the father to completely go insane like he did in the original. Really, he descends into madness. In this one, Jason Clarke doesn't really give that performance as much. It's more about sadness than it is about going insane. Dale Midkiff goes insane in the first one, and so you buy it. Now, this one does have a different last scene, which we will talk about in my spoiler review. I will say I'm kind of in the middle with it. It was an interesting scene, but again, it felt like it wasn't really needed. But I mean, it definitely creates an interesting discussion. So overall, guys, I'm gonna give Pet Sematary just a straight up humdrum. And that's a shame because this was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Based on the trailers, I thought it was gonna be great. I really did. Atmospherically, it looks pretty creepy. You know, it looks like what a horror movie should look like. And you know, there's some nice score moments there, but this one, even the score is not nearly as effective in this one as it was in the original. The original score is just iconic. You know, Christopher Young, who did the score in this movie, I think he had some nice moments here and there. You know, I think he could be an effective composer. You know, and I think his best work is ahead of him, but I don't think it was in this movie. And it's just another reason why you shouldn't remake classics like Pet Sematary, unless you got something profound to say and it's gonna be, you know, at least as good or if not better. And this one, I can't see myself wanting to watch it as much as I did the original. I'll probably throw the original in, you know, from here on out. So anyway, guys, post in the comments your thoughts on the Pet Sematary remake. Looking forward to hearing them. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays we do Free For All Fridays. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.